Welcome, everybody, back to another episode of the Amateur Experts Podcast, where we are experts of absolutely nothing. But today, we're a little bit of experts on something. And one of those things is fantasy football. We love fantasy football. You know, we love fantasy football. Pretty much the basis of the show was created for us to talk fantasy football.
Yeah.
And so, last episode that we'll have coming out shortly, as soon as my dumbass remembers to give Andrew the video file for the first time in like 2 weeks, we will have our biggest busts. But if you're listening to this one, after you listen to the bust episode, today we have Plant Your Flag, aka the amateur experts, elite players for fantasy football for the upcoming season. This we're talking about is just strictly this season. It's not Dynasty, although a lot of the guys that we're going to talk about we are pretty high on in Dynasty as well. But yeah, let's we each have four players, four different guys that we're going to plant our flags on for them being our players for the upcoming 2021 NFL season. So without further ado, what's up, Drew? How's it going, man?
It's going good, man. It's going good. I'm excited to actually get to talk about guys we like instead of,
Yeah,
the other part has to be done talking about the bus and things like that. It's just part of it. But these conversations are definitely a lot more fun. And honestly, you not getting the video file to me will kind of work out well because then we can put these out like a couple of days apart. And then you got the bad and then the good
and
to
the
follow it
good.
up,
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, but so
Which the whole
you said
reason, yeah, the
you
whole
said
reason
we're
we didn't get that.
experts at it.
Yeah, the whole reason I didn't get that stuff to we had a pipe bust, we had a water pipe bust out at our house. It was like 6 inches away from being under our foundation. It was gonna cost us like $10,000. Luckily,
Jesus.
yeah, I was literally like 6 inches away um, from it being an absolutely disaster. So, but we finally got that fixed. We got water back, crisis averted. Then my grandma's birthday was this week. My mom's birthday is tomorrow. It's been so busy this week, and then on top of that, with work. So, but leaving life, on the outside, we're here to talk fantasy football, and we're here to talk about players that we love.
Yeah, so this is, I mean, this is, you said we're a little bit of experts on something because the something we're talking about today is guys that we love. And one thing we do at least know is that we have strong opinions one way or the other on a lot of guys. And, we get to talk about the guys at the top of the list today. So, it's guys either we're higher than consensus on or looking like we're going to be using ADP kind of to gauge where we think these guys should be versus where they are and stuff like that. So just guys that we're saying that you might need to reach for them to make sure you can get them, but that it's okay to do that. You'll be happy you did it in the end. So yeah, I think you might have the hottest of the hot right off the gate. I had to stop you because it sounded like you were about to go into a rant before we even hit record, and I couldn't let you do that. So
Glad you did
I
that.
I know you're itching. I'm not going to make you
But
wait any longer. We can
yeah,
just get right into it.
yeah, yeah.
We
So
both got four players. It
yeah,
doesn't, it wasn't specific positions, anything like that. We just both picked out four players that we really like this early on in the draft process. It is, still about a little bit less than 2 months before most people will be drafting and redraft if you're waiting till closer to the beginning of the season. But with ADP where it's at right now, these are the guys that we're highest on. So
yeah.
um,
Go ahead and throw that shit up on the
ready
screen.
to pull the
Go
curtain
ahead and
back.
throw it up. My number one guy, my biggest crush, maybe not even of just this year, probably one of my biggest crushes that I've ever crushed on hard. Antonio Gibson, my guy, planting my flag on this guy. And look, you can point out the rookie stats. You can point out that he's only played running back for a couple years ever, including last year, uh, which they were going to ease him into the role. They didn't want to. They didn't want to work him in the pass game, which, if you know, he was a college wide receiver,
Yeah, that's what
really
he's
good
best at,
college
or
wide
was best
receiver.
at.
Yeah, but they didn't want to overload him with work, so they wanted to ease him into running back, let the pass catching stuff come, which already comes natural to him, and kind of just add that in as he goes. Well, if he showed anything last year, it's that the dude can run the damn rock. Uh, and this is a very simple model if you know the coach and the coaching staff and the running back coach that they used for one Christian McCaffrey. The exact same plan where they eased him in as a rookie, as a runner, kind of didn't want to overload him right off the bat coming into the NFL, let him get his groove. And then the second year, you know what happened. It was over. It was over. Well, Antonio Gibson, just check this out. Just from his rookie year, just check this out. So from weeks 2 to 12, that means week 2 of his entire NFL career, where he is just catching up running the football in the NFL, to week 12, he gained 834 yards with 11 touchdowns and 30 catches. He only averaged 16 touches per game because, like I said, they're easing him into it, averaging 17.9 fantasy points. He had the toe injury towards the end of the season, which it cost him pretty much almost all the end of the season. But even with all that, he finished as RB13. So you're telling me you got a guy, you're limiting touches, he's learning the position, he's not playing to his greatest strength, which is pass catching, and he's still running back 13 in his rookie year, while he misses basically the last 3 to 4 games of the season, and he's RB13. And everything we've heard out of camp, and this isn't like, I'm not one for camp talk, because look, the first time a coach ever comes out in June and July and says, this player looks like shit at camp, that's going to be the first time that's ever happened. So I don't listen to coach speak, and we're like, I don't care. But like I said, this is the same. And this even goes back to last year, because they told us their plan. They told us this is what they were doing. They've continued to preach that into this offseason. His running back coach says where he is now as a player, just even compared to last season, is night and day. They plan, like that's his words, night and day difference as a runner of the football. And if he's, I mean, look what he did last year. So if he's that better, he's that much better. And then they've already said they plan on getting him a lot more involved in the passing game, which if you're a PPR player, if you're a dynasty player, that's just music to your ears. Because you're thinking last year, you're like, well, I mean, the guy only caught, he averaged 16 targets, but he only caught, I believe, what was his? Oh, let me pull it up here because I got it right here. Hold on. Fantasy.
What were you looking for? His receiving?
The receiving. Let's see.
He had,
Receiving. He had 36 receptions last year.
yeah, 247
So you're telling me
yards.
a guy that his biggest strength is catching the ball. He only had 36 receptions, and they've already said they're looking to get him. Because I believe he had 43 targets. So 36 receptions on 43 targets. They're looking to double his targets. They want north of 80 targets this year, along with giving him the full running load. I'm all in. I think this guy who is going right now, where you had him, he's very strongly in the second round, could slip to the third, 16th overall player. I'm planting my flag right now. Antonio Gibson, top 2 running back on the season. Top 2. He's finishing 1 or he's finishing 2. He ain't finishing 3.
Holy.
Yeah, that's how strongly I feel about this guy. Now, injuries notwithstanding, of course.
Yeah.
But if he's healthy,
If he plays
I literally think you're looking at this guy.
17,
We've
technically.
We've got the term that I told Andrew about earlier that I'm using, DCMC. He plays in DC. I think he's Christian McCaffrey all over again. I was like, this guy is going to just absolutely annihilate. And if you're getting him in the second round, if you're starting off with one of these, these first 9 guys here up on our board at the running back position, and then you're flipping the second round and you're getting that guy, I mean, you just can't lose. It's a win. Like I'm so excited for Antonio Gibson, and I could make this an entire hour-long conversation about Antonio Gibson. But I mean, I don't I don't want to do that to Andrew. But I mean, just look at the measurables on this guy too. For a guy that's learning the position, 6 foot, 228 pounds, runs a 4.3, grades great with his vision. I mean, just great vision. Has shown the ability. You know who had the lowest percentage last year of tackles that went from 0 yards to -yards? Out of all running backs in the NFL, Antonio Gibson. 4% of his total runs went from 0 or went either for negative or 0 yards. That tells me he's got great vision. He's hitting the hole and he's still learning how to do it. He's only going to get better. And if you're telling me a guy, like I said, who finished as RB13 on the season, they're trying to almost double his workload in the passing game while getting probably more carries in the running game, who missed the last 3 or 4 games of the season, and he finished as RB13. If you're telling me that guy's not a locked and loaded top 5 running back this year, if he stays healthy, I don't know what you're seeing, because it ain't what I'm seeing. Yeah, I've got the hugest crushes on Antonio Gibson. Like I said, I can go an hour long just on him, but I'm planting my flag. Top 2 player in fantasy football next year.
Wow.
Antonio Gibson. So I want you to follow that one up.
Yeah, that's a tough act to follow, man. I mean, you're not like I'm not completely out on that. I'm not that high, but like I'm not out on the player by any means. Like I love Antonio Gibson's talent. I do think his situation's gotten better. Um, I don't think McKissick sees the volume from Fitzpatrick that he got last year with the array of quarterbacks that they played with. Um, the only thing that really worries me is some possible touchdown regression. You know, you mentioned the amount of time he played and things like that, and the amount of touchdowns he scored in that time was kind of wild. And you know that's the toughest part about fantasy is trying to predict touchdowns. Like it's almost impossible. It's so wishy-washy. But I'd have a hard time taking him, not taking him because you don't have to take him there because you can play the ADP game and get him. But I would have a hard time projecting him to finish top 2 though. I mean, and like our rookie draft last year, I was able to get him right at the start of the second round behind guys like Zach Moss and it's the running back from Tampa. I'm going blank now. Everybody was so high on for whatever reason.
Oh,
Just
your boy starts with a.
wow, I really went blank on this guy. What is
I
this
am
guy?
too. It's because we're on the spot.
Yeah, what is this guy's name? But anyway, I mean, if you played
Keyshawn Vaughn.
Keyshawn Vaughn, there you go. Like the second that AP got cut, he was clearly in front of. He was behind like there was like the big 5 at the running back position or whatever last year. I thought he was pretty clear up behind that, and I was able to get him in the second round. So I mean, as far as the talent goes, I think that's been evident. But man, that's a big workload to project, and he's got the talent to get it done, man. If he can get the touches, if he can stay healthy, I mean, I do think as far as looking at this ADP chart, I do think that
Look, I'm gonna say something borderline blasphemous for me. Okay.
Okay.
Because this guy that I'm about to compare him to, who he reminds me of, I mean, literally, he reminds me so much of this guy. And it is the only non-Colts jersey I own.
Oh, I know where you're going.
That I'm about to compare him to. He reminds me so much of LaDainian Tomlinson when you watch him run. Yeah, exactly. That's borderline blasphemous. You compare anybody to LT, but I'm telling you, man, they even share a birthday.
Oh
They
my.
share him and LT have the same birthday. The visor game. Look at the visors. I mean, it's the reincarnation of LaDainian Tomlinson. So I'm telling you right now, if you are a dynasty player and you are listening to this, if you do not get Antonio Gibson this offseason, that ship has sailed. You have 2 months to get a share of Antonio Gibson. After that, you just get to watch him dominate you for probably the next 8 to 10 years. So yeah, if you can, get your share now, get it while it's low, because Once September starts, it's game over. Um, I, yeah, I'll end on there. So let's get to your guy, your first guy.
Wow. Okay.
Get to your first.
All right. So my first guy, let's just go ahead and get the homer stuff out of the way. I'm gonna pick him
Surprise,
first so
surprise.
we can put that discussion behind us. I am a lifelong St. Louis slash Los Angeles Rams fan. So, taking the Rams running back is pretty predictable for me. But with where he's going and with what I see happening this season, I can't not plant my flag on this guy. So his ADP has actually been rising. And if I'm going to switch back to this real quick, you see he's right at the beginning of the second round right now. But I'm telling you, he should firmly be in this group of running backs in the first round coming off the board. And there's a couple guys, Austin Eckler going right in front of him, Aaron Jones, maybe even like Chubb, JT, Zeke, like I'm fine if you want to take him at like the 105, 106. I think that's about where he should be going. And there's a few reasons why, other than the fact that I'm a Rams fan. But if you look at what's happened this offseason, the big thing obviously is that Matthew Stafford is now the Los Angeles Rams quarterback. And Stafford has shown a history in the past of being very comfortable and doing so on a regular basis of dumping the ball off to the running back if the deep ball isn't there, or, whatever the case may be. And you mix that in with the fact that McVay has shown what he will do if he has a workhorse running back that he believes in, a la Todd Gurley, which comes along with the upside of being the overall running back one in fantasy, which we saw Gurley do. And McVay has said several times that he believes that that Cam Akers is a workhorse type running back, that he has that ability. And I mean, he showed that. The last time that we saw him, I mean, the last two games that we saw him were in the playoffs. The first one against Seattle, he had 28 carries for 131 yards and a touchdown, and then followed that up in Green Bay with 18 carries for 90 yards and a touchdown. And that was with a injured Jared Goff behind center. The game against Seattle where he broke off 130 yards. Goff wasn't even supposed to be the starter. Wolford got hurt right at the beginning of the game. Goff gets thrown into the game, and it's pretty obvious what the game plan from that point forward is probably going to be, and there was still no stopping him. And he was seeing success in the running game and in the passing game, and that was even with Goff. So having the upgrade in the offense, the upgrade at quarterback, the vacated targets, and then the fact that Malcolm Brown, who was a free agent this offseason, didn't get brought back. He ended up signing in Miami, and while Daryl Henderson had most of the spotlight while Cam Akers was hurt last year, Malcolm Brown is a guy that McVay's trusted and has put in there in a bunch of key situations in games over the past couple of years, and a lot of red zone type work as well. And so with Malcolm Brown being gone and the improvement in the offense, and you should have more scoring opportunities theoretically. So I just think he has some incredible upside that we were already starting to see last year. And, I would fully expect that the offense is going to take a step forward this year. So, right now he's got the ADP of right at the end of the first round, beginning of the second round. I think he should be going right there in the middle of the first round in that first group of running backs. Daryl Henderson will still be involved to some capacity, but with how valuable the touches in that offense are going to be this year. And then the fact that even with Henderson being involved, like Henderson can still be involved and Akers still get the touches he needs to finish as a top 4, top 5 running back. But so it all just really comes down to me is health, because he already did have those issues last year. He missed a good chunk of the season, which is why the breakout took so long to happen. So that's the only main thing for me. But yeah, this is the easiest guy for me to plant my flag on, with the mix of talent, the options in the offense, and the
fact that he's a
upgraded
Ram.
quarterback. So uh So yeah, that's I'm not Antonio Gibson high on him. I'm not going to tell you top two, top three, but I do think he should be going about a half round higher than where he's going right now, and it puts him in a group with some high level name running backs. But that's
I would honestly, I'd probably take him. I would take him and Zeke are probably comparable to where I would draft him at.
yeah, that's about where I'm at too.
Yeah. So, all right. So getting on to my next guy, wide receiver. I'm planting my flag on this season for a big wide receiver one breakout season finally happening. That's it. Deontay Johnson from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Look, I'm just going to tell you right now, volume is a hell of a drug. Uh, you're talking about a guy who's looking to see upwards of 140 to 150 targets as he has. If he can fix the drop issues, I mean, I don't see any way that he's just not a wide receiver one. He led the league in drops last year with 14 drops, but the guy's just he had more targets last season than Stephon Diggs, DeAndre Hopkins, Allen Robinson, Devontae Adams.
Wow.
Yeah, like this guy has the volume. And then on top of that, you know, you're looking at I believe I had something pulled up here where it was showing you just how open this guy gets, how great of a route runner he is. Um, so if you look through the numbers, let me find it. Let me find it. Here we go. So, and this is non-slot wide receivers. This means guys strictly lining up in the outside who had generated a step or more of separation most often in the NFL. Number one was Devontae Adams. Number 1A or 1B, Deontay Johnson. They tied 77% of the time they had either a step or more of separation on their receivers. That's higher than guys Marquise Brown, Stephon Diggs, Mike Evans, Metcalf, Hopkins, Brandon Cooks. You're talking about some of the great route runners in the league. This guy's right there with them. If he fixes the drop issues, if he drops even half of, if he drops 7 passes, you're looking at a monster season out of this guy. And I mean, obviously, we know with wide receivers, it all depends on quarterback play. We get that. But I mean, even Claypool just had a 13 touchdown year. So you're looking at touchdown regression from him, maybe a few more coming his way. Ben clearly trusts him and targets him as the wide receiver one in that offense. Now, do I expect the Steelers to have as much production from the passing attack as they did last year? No, not really. But I think where he's going in drafts here, you can see, I believe he's going right at 57. I think you're looking at a borderline top 15 wide receiver. I think he will be a top 15 wide receiver. And if you're getting him right here in the 5th round, that's a steal. That is a steal. The guy's got more volume. Like I said, he's got the volume, and volume's a hell of a drug. If he fixes the drop issues, the sky's the limit for this kid. And he's not going to stay down forever. If you've watched him, you know how talented he is. He he reminds a lot of people of the Steelers organization of Antonio Brown.
Right.
So, I mean, obviously, I don't think he has the hands of Antonio Brown, but there's very few people in history that do. But yeah, I mean, you're talking about a guy you can get 5th round, 4th round, that's going to end up being a borderline wide receiver one for you next season. And that's where I'm planting my flag on Deontay Johnson.
I like it. Yeah. I mean, of the 13 games he played the entire game last year, he had 10 plus targets in 10 of those 13
Yeah.
games. So,
And if
the
if you were
volume's
lucky
there.
enough to have him in the playoffs last year, you saw the workload. You saw
Right.
the targets. I believe the last game, he have 17 targets in his last game?
Something
That
like that.
playoff
Yeah. It was
game?
something stupid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in the playoff game, he had 17 targets in one game.
Yeah.
You,
That's crazy.
yeah, feed me that all day.
Yep. Yeah. I agree, man. I agree. All right. So my next guy is going one full round higher than Deontay Johnson. He's currently at the 407, the 45th player off the board, and I still think that that is too low. And that next guy for me is CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver with the Dallas Cowboys. I've already about make you have a stroke while I was talking about CeeDee Lamb once on this show, so I'll try not to do that again for for your health and safety and for the for the safety of the show.
I like CeeDee Lamb. I
Uh,
drafted him last year. I love CeeDee Lamb.
yeah,
I just don't think he's better than Justin Jefferson.
you're right, and that's part of why I am so high on him is because I do. But that's just talking about redraft. If you look at what he did last year, it was a small sample size. I get it, but if you take the first 5 games of his rookie year, which was the 5 games with Dak Prescott, who, assuming health, he's going to be playing with this year. The first 5 games of his rookie year, with basically, you got to remember, basically no real offseason with COVID and everything. He was averaging 14.2 fantasy points per game and was on pace to put up just over 220 fantasy points, which would have had him as the wide receiver 8. Now, granted, I get, again, that 5 games is not a large sample size for a rookie wide receiver, but I think that there is some sustainability there. I mean, he did most of his damage out of the slot. They've still got Gallup there and Amari Cooper. So I would assume he's going to play, a similar role to what he played the first 5 games of last year. I think he's going to be a trusted target for Dak. There's already been some video clips coming out from camp and things like that of some catches that he's making. And obviously, if you pay attention to fantasy football in the offseason, this guy isn't. I'm not the first guy to pick this guy as a breakout player or like somebody that I'm planting my flag on. This is a pretty popular pick in some of what I've seen, but his ADP is still going at the 504 or down in the 5th round. He was going behind Amari Cooper, and for me, I think he's a borderline top 12 wide receiver. I think that this is going to be one of the better offenses in football as long as Dak is healthy. And I love Amari Cooper too. I think Amari Cooper is a very talented wide receiver, and I think that this offense, with Dak playing to his potential and the offense operating the way that it should, I do think that they have the ability to put up enough production to have multiple top 15-ish wide receivers for fantasy. Like that, if Amari and CeeDee Lamb both finished around that area, that wouldn't surprise me at all. But of the two, and then of essentially, the year 2 wide receivers, the CD's the guy for me, man. He's, I said, if you're talking about dynasty, he's a top 5 dynasty wide receiver for me. I have him over Justin Jefferson in dynasty startup. That is the level of high I am on him for this year and for moving forward as well, man. Like I'm over the moon for CD. You're talking about redraft, you're talking about dynasty. He's a guy that I just made a move for him in our 32 team dynasty league. Like this isn't something I'm just coming out and saying like I'm putting my money where my mouth is. In terms of this guy, and so that's I mean, if you kind of similar to what you said with Gibson, if you want to share a CD, you need to go get him now, because after this year, with how young he is and the season I think he's about to have, assuming health, nobody's going to trade him after this season for a long time, especially with the shelf life that wide receivers have. I go get him now, or just enjoy not having him on your dynasty team and redraft. I do think he's worth reaching for, and I think he will be the best receiver on that team, and a top, like I said, a borderline wide receiver 1.
Yeah, sticking with the wide receiver train, my next guy. I know you're really excited about this pick here.
Yes, sir.
Your boy Robert Woods, who I believe is also going right in the 5th round as well.
Yeah,
right
couple
at the end
spots
of the
behind
4th,
CD, right at the end of the 4th, beginning of the 5th.
Yeah, so Robert Woods is another guy I'm planting my flag on this year. You can look basically at a bunch of different things. One, the numbers the guys put up. I mean, every year the guy does nothing but just outperform where he gets drafted every year. So he has finished now. The last 3 years is wide receiver 10, wide receiver 17, wide receiver 13, and this is all with Jared Goff as his quarterback. So the guy's basically a borderline wide receiver one every year, getting drafted in the 4th and 5th round with Jared Goff. Matt Stafford's coming in. The offense is looking like it's going to just go bananas this year, and for some reason the guy's still getting drafted. Like I said, at the turn, it makes no sense to me. Did you know most explosive catches in the last 3 seasons? That means 15 or more yards gained per catch. Top 5: Julio Jones, Travis Kelce, Mike Evans, DeAndre Hopkins. 4 of the best wide receivers, 4 of the best receiving options in the league. You know who number 5 is? Robert Woods.
Bobby Trees.
Yeah.
Yes,
So, I
sir.
mean, yeah, the guy just looks like, with Matt Stafford there, the targets are going to be there. They're going to throw the ball. Um, and Matt Stafford, if you've watched him, one thing he loves to do is stretch the field. The guy's got a big arm. He loves to target the middle of the field on these crossing routes, which just so happens to be where Robert Woods excels the most. Right in that middle of the field. He every year
And
the guy
he's
just murders
so
people.
good after the catch too.
Yeah, the guy just murders people.
Stafford's gonna get passing yards counted for him where he didn't have to do nothing because Woods is gonna get the ball and he's so smooth. Like I don't want to talk too much. This is your guy, but
Well, yeah, no,
I
I think
love
he's
Robert Woods
to
too.
me, Robert Woods is the most underrated wide receiver in the NFL.
Yeah.
To
If you're not
to
talking
me,
just fantasy, like what he
no,
does,
I'm talking
the
about, yeah,
blocking
just in actual
and things
football.
like that, yeah.
I think he is the most underrated wide receiver. Like I said, you're talking about the last 3 years with Jared Goff. He's a borderline RB or wide receiver one every single year. That, like I said, the guy does nothing but outperform where he gets drafted. So that offense is looking to take the next step. You have a guy that clearly is an upgrade in talent at the quarterback position, whose biggest strength just so happens to coincide with Robert Woods' biggest strengths. I think I'm looking at, I mean, if I had to project right now where this is headed, I think you're looking at 86 catches, right around 1,300 yards, and about 8 to 10 touchdowns. That's where I'm projecting Robert Woods to land at, just off the top of my head. So, so yeah, that's a guy I'm planting my flag on. That's a guy that I'm looking. If I'm in the 4th and 5th round and he's there on the board, I'm snatching that all day. And a lot of these guys, like if I can get one of these top running backs, pair him with Antonio Gibson in the 2nd, take another 3rd round option, and then I'm getting Robert Woods and Deontay Johnson in the 4th and 5th round.
That's a sexy start to a
That I
draft,
mean,
man.
that's disgusting. And that is where these guys are going in their ADP, where they're being
Right.
drafted at right now. And those are all 3 guys I'm looking to target at their ADP, to where you could realistically have 2 RB1s and 2 wide receiver ones in your first 5 picks. 4 of your first 5 picks can be number 1 options at their positions in fantasy football. So yeah, I'm super excited for Robert Woods this year. I think this offense is going to explode. I think what he's done with Jared Goff and with Sean McVay, I think you could even make the argument that you might be looking at a top 7 wide receiver like performance this next year for Robert Woods. Um, so yeah, I'm really excited to see where he's going. If you got anything you want to add about Robert Woods, I'm going to let you talk. But yeah, I'm planting my flag on this guy.
Man, he's a guy I could gush about all day. Just what he does on the field, every single snap, man. Like you said, he's so underrated. So I could spend the rest of the podcast talking about him, but I think you did him justice without a doubt, and I agree with the pick. I think that I was kind of hoping, whenever you sent me your list. I was really hoping that there was going to be something that I could just like try to pick apart or disagree with or something. But all these guys that you've got listed, man, I'm 100% on board with, and this one especially. Obviously, Rams homer and things like that. But even that aside, man, I think his value every year he's undervalued. Every year he outperforms his draft position, and I think he can do it even more so than he has in the past this year with where he's going. So yeah, no, count me in 100%. All right, so my next pick, my next guy that I'm going to plant my flag on is none other than rookie tight end Kyle Pitts of the Atlanta Falcons. And
Starting the hype train early tonight, boys.
you'll notice that we don't even have a picture of him in an actual game jersey because he hasn't even played an actual NFL game yet. So all we've got is a training camp shot. But so for this pick to make sense, for Kyle Pitts to have the season that I'm projecting him to have, and for him to be, for him to deliver on this plant your flag pick, he's essentially going to have to break rookie tight end records, and I'm telling you that that's okay to feel that way, and that I too think that that's going to happen. So if you're out there, if you're riding this Kyle Pitts hype train, you should know by now that you're not alone. And with all the people out there riding it, like this isn't new.
If this guy's not the LeBron James of football, he's going to be a bust.
Right? Yeah. Fantasy Twitter is going to be on this guy's ass if he doesn't deliver out
I'm
the
going to need
gate.
at least 200 yards and 3 touchdowns week 1.
Right. And tight end is known as a position historically that it takes at least 2, normally 3 years to really start. Yeah, to really start seeing, like, the special ones, maybe 2 years, but normally about 3 years before you really start to see a return on investment on a tight end draft selection. So this is not a normal thing to talk about with tight ends, but Kyle Pitts is not a normal tight end, so I'm okay talking about it. I mean, the reality is he's got he has the longest recorded wingspan for a tight end prospect in NFL draft history, was the highest drafted tight end in NFL draft history. You saw, I mean, he's already doing things that tight ends haven't been doing, just in the measurables and things like that.
Like, none of that's on the field.
No, exactly, because it hasn't happened yet. So you have to put your faith in something you haven't seen, which is why I'm planting my flag on this and why I love this pick so much. Yeah, exactly. But we've seen a lot of people produce in college, and it didn't necessarily, mean that immediate NFL.
Looking at you.
Sorry, man. I still remember how excited you were about that trade.
We don't talk about that.
But you combine the measurables and his skill, and say what you want about PFF, but he was like the highest graded pass catcher in PFF for, coming in to, like, you're talking about receivers, tight ends, doesn't matter. I mean, and then so you mix that with the fact of he lands with the Atlanta Falcons, who Matt Ryan, he catches a lot of shit, and some of it rightfully so, but he is a good quarterback, and he's going to give Kyle Pitts plenty of catchable passes. Like, he's not coming into a dumpster fire situation.
No, I mean, the guy made Austin Hooper a tight end 1.
Right. And then you mix that with the fact that the obvious thing is Julio Jones is out the door. So there are some giant holes, giant shoes to fill there. And I don't expect Kyle Pitts to do that by himself, but that does open up a lot of targets there with Julio gone. Arthur Smith, new Atlanta Falcons head coach, ran out of 12 personnel, I believe most in the league last year. If not most, he was at the top of the league. So
you have Derrick Henry, it's pretty easy.
Right. So assuming that even kind of, I wouldn't expect that to just completely leave his repertoire, even though he doesn't have, Derrick Henry. So, assuming
got an upgrade.
Assuming Hayden Hurst and Kyle Pitts are on the field a lot next year, which one of those two guys you think is going to be running routes more often? This guy is a wide receiver playing tight end. His build and essentially probably his role on this team, what I'm projecting anyway. So what I'm telling you, I'm going to hit this from both perspectives. In redraft, I think he should be the 4th tight end off the board. I think after Kelsey, Kittle, and Waller are gone, I'm swinging for the fences. I'm taking my shot on Kyle Pitts. He's going in the 7th round right now. I think he's the 7th tight end off the board.
I still like Hawkinson in redraft better.
I can understand that. There's definitely a debate for that. And that would be the next guy up for me. Like, he would be 5th for me. So we're not far off on that. But so right now he's going as the Let me see. Let me pull that up. I had it in my head before we started talking about it, but then I don't remember. So right now, Mark Andrews is the fourth tight end coming off the board in the beginning of the fifth round, and he is down at. He's not past Fant. Wait, he is. Oh wow, he's down. So he's down at. Okay, I'm just realizing this right now as we're talking. He's down at pick 8 in the eighth round, the 96 player overall. No shot. This man needs to be way up the board. Talking about like in this area right here where Andrews is going. Now, if you want to wait on tight end, I wouldn't blame you. And it sounds like you can kind of wait on tight end and possibly get Kyle Pitts now with the hype train that's been going on. I don't see how there's any way. Like I'm surprised that he's even that low still.
Well,
But
hype train ain't like he's 101 overall. You're
right, yeah,
101.
this ADP is not reflecting what the hype train's been saying, but yeah, I would be taking him over Andrews, over Hawkinson, over Fant, over Gesicki by Logan Thomas. No shot. Kyle Pitts, yeah, he should be after those top three tight ends that are all going, they're coming off the board by the third round. At that point, if you want to go tight end around like that fifth round range, I think Kyle Pitts is the guy, is the guy to grab. Whenever you're talking about, at that position, tight end's known to be a dumpster fire, man. And so if I'm not grabbing one of those top three guys, I am going to try to swing for the fence with my pick. And if I'm going to wait a little bit, and I think that Kyle Pitts is the next one that presents the most upside. And then if you're talking about, I said I was going to hit it from both angles. If you're talking about dynasty, hasn't stepped on the field yet. He's tight end one for me over Kittle, Kelsey, all those guys. He's tight end one, and you're shaking your head. But after this season, in Dynasty Startup, Kyle Pitts should be the first tight end off the board. And after this season, I think that's going to be a lot more common than it is right now. The only thing that might derail that is if Trey Lance is as good as I think he is. And then, Kittle's still in his mid to late 20s, like 27. So you still got several good years out of him. And then if Trey Lance ends up paying off, then Kittle looks pretty good. But with how young he is, how great I think he is, he's the tight end 4 for me in redraft and tight end 1 in dynasty. Like I'm all in. Sign me up on Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I gotta see it first. Give me one season.
I get it.
You gotta give me one season. Give me one season, and I'll hop on your jock strap all day. You gotta show me something. You have to give me one season. You give me 3 games. Give me 3 games, and that's all I need to see. I'll be able to tell in 3 games.
And that's the issue with Pitts, though, especially in Dynasty, man, is like if he comes out and he delivers even a little bit with all this hype.
If he delivers on the hype, you've got the greatest football player of all time. The greatest football player of all time.
Yeah. So
this guy is literally being hyped. I've actually seen it posted on a verified football Twitter account.
Yeah,
the LeBron James of football. So, I mean, look, dude, that's a lot to live up to. We just hope that he just doesn't flop on the field as much.
He's going to make me look oh, my God. He's going to look, Kyle Pitts is going to make me look bad in a lot of different ways if he don't hit. So
we'll always have this podcast. So, look, before you click on my next guy, I want to we are sticking with the Falcons. Whenever the term Big Quad Daddy comes up, who do you think
you're probably talking about
the Quadzilla?
You're probably talking about like Saquon Barkley or AJ Dillon.
Oh yeah, I've seen those guys. But am I talking about those? Hit the slide. Hell fucking no. Look at that. Look at this man. Look at that man. Look at that lower body. This is the only time that saying this is said in a completely heterosexual way. Look at the legs on that man. I love it. And see, there's the whole thing. It's like, oh, you're overrating, just because he's got nice legs doesn't mean he's a good running back. Well, you're wrong.
That isn't the only reason we feel this way.
Yeah, I'm going to give you some reasons why. So you're looking at last season, I'm talking about Big Mike Davis, aka RB1 for the Falcons. aka Big Dad or Big Quad Daddy. Is what I'm calling him this season. He is my plant my flag guy for this upcoming season. Um, and if you look at the ADP, let's see where he's going right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Let's find Mike
it's a,
Davis. Let's do a
yeah,
little
so I believe
exercise
he's in the
here.
fifth round. Yep, sixth round,
Six
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 oh
oh
one.
one.
So at the turn there, fifth, sixth round. I think this guy who was an RB1 last year because McCaffrey's injury. I don't know if he's going to have quite that season, but I think he is the must own running back two this year.
And
With
man,
border,
even like running back three flex type of thing with where you're
yeah,
getting
I
him in
think
the
you're
sixth
well,
round,
yeah, I
like
think you can get him in that RB3 flex
right,
thing, but I think he is an RB2
right.
on the season, a high end RB2 could possibly turn into an RB1 season like he had last year. Um, and this isn't just all fantasy based. If you break down the numbers in 2020, in all but one game, he caught multiple passes in every single game except for one last year. He was fifth among all running backs with 70 targets. He only played 14 games. And these, look, it's not just the volume thing either. The guy's got the metric. He only had one drop all season long. Guy's got great hands, great work in the passing game. Well, like you said, with Julio Jones being gone, with that backfield being vacated, with some of the other guys they lost as well, the targets are going to be there. You as much as we would love to feed Calvin Ridley and Kyle Pitts 300 targets each, it's not realistic.
No,
So
somebody
yes,
else
so
is got to
somebody
catch
else
some
has got to
passes.
step up in the passing game. Mike Davis can do that. You look at him as a runner. He ranked eighth in the league with 72 evaded tackles, and he ranked third in the league with a 32% juke rate. That means he makes guys miss as a runner. The guy never goes down on first contact. Now, does he have the breakaway speed? No. Could the touchdowns possibly fall back? Yes, because the Falcons have always had generally kind of a top 5 to 10 passing attack, but they have ranked in the last 3 seasons 27th or lower in rushing. But I don't think they've had a running back as the caliber of Mike Davis. Now, say what you want about Todd Gurley. We know what Todd Gurley was early in his career, but that's
Yeah.
not the same Todd Gurley. You're
No, that
looking at
was
the name.
Todd Gurley
Once
last year was
Devontae
not.
Freeman and Todd Gurley, the wear and tear ended up on them. Look, Mike Davis has been a backup most of his career. He finally got a chance to shine last year. He's only 28 years old. So, I mean, the guy's still relatively young. He doesn't have a lot of wear and tear on him, and he's shown his ability to break tackles, make tough catches, make guys miss, and get the ball into the end zone. So I think it's going to be, if nothing happens with the running back position there in Atlanta, if they are going to roll with Mike Davis as their RB1, um, I think you're looking at, I think at the lowest an RB2, high end RB2, possibly low end RB1. Um, and even then, if you look at the scoring of Gurley, look at what Atlanta did last year. As ineffective as Todd Gurley was throughout the year, the guy he still had 9 touchdowns.
Hmm.
So I mean I mean that's a significant upgrade. He has little competition for carries. He's in an excellent position to I think he can hit double digit touchdowns this year. So yeah,
Yeah.
and his, like I said, it's not just. I mean, you're getting a guy like that in the sixth round, fifth or sixth round. Um, yeah, I'm smashing that all day. If you can get this guy as your RB3, or if you do, maybe if you do believe the zero running back strategy, if you go zero running back, um, if I think you can get this guy as your RB1. I don't think you're going to be disappointed. So I'm planting my flag on Mike Davis having a great season this year. Um, like I said, I those quads are just gonna just yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about. This is going to be an X-rated podcast looking at Mike Davis's picture. This guy's going to be fantastic. And for where he's going, I'm so excited to be able to plant my flag on him. If you, like I said, this is just in redraft. We don't really know how Dynasty's going to look at, but I'm just looking at this coming up season.
Yeah.
If you can get this guy later on in your drafts, like Andrew said, is in that RB3 range, I think you're getting a steal.
Still.
So yeah, Mike Davis is in for a big year, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you said he's 28 years old, which is typically where running backs start to see a decline, but he is a very young 28 in terms of like NFL workload. So even in dynasty, I mean, there's still questions contract wise and stuff like that, but he's not your normal 28-year-old running back in terms of, running backs that we're talking about, that whenever you're talking about running backs that are in the consideration for RB1s, it's usually not guys that have spent most of their careers backups. But yeah, I mean, he showed the talent last year. I thought he showed the talent some in Chicago too, and for whatever reason, I mean, David Montgomery did well last year, but um,
Well, I mean,
yeah,
not
no,
even in Chicago. Look at his Seattle. Look at some of the stuff he did in Seattle. He was
yeah,
great in Seattle.
yeah, that's true too. So I think the talent's there, the opportunity's there. I mean, he might see some competition for targets. They brought in Javian Hawkins, the running back from Louisville, is an undrafted free agent. He is a good pass catching running back, but that if Hawkins makes any type of dent in the offense, that'll be where it's at. I don't think he's taking any rushing touches away, or very very few.
Yeah,
And
not at
the
his
red zone
size.
work, and right, exactly. He's built to be a pass catching specialist. So he's not. Mike Davis doesn't have any clear
Yeah, but
challengers for
yeah, I was gonna
carries.
say, but Mike Davis, even with
He's a great
they,
pass catcher.
yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah,
you're not taking him off on third down unless he's
right.
tired.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he has the skill set to be a 3 down back without a doubt. Yeah. He's got natural hands as a pass catcher as well. So I'm all aboard. I love this pick. He's literally, if he does fall to the 6th round, he's my favorite pick of the 6th round. Like, if he makes it to the 6th round, you should be smashing the draft button every single time. So I love it, man.
Yeah, and if
Um,
you look at just last year, we're talking about Christian McCaffrey. He had a 78% snap rate with McCaffrey being low or being gone, which is pretty comparable to probably where he's going to end up in Atlanta,
right.
right around that 78 to 80% snap rate. RB1 on the season last year for the Panthers, RB1 in half point PPR leagues, and even higher than where he landed in full PPR leagues. So yeah, I think if the workload's there, the health is there, even given given the fact that the corpse of Todd Gurley scored 9 touchdowns in that offense.
All right.
Um, yeah, I think it's going to be a fantastic year for Mike Davis.
We still love you though, Todd.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
love you, my guy. I remember you for what you were.
yeah.
Um, no, I love it, man. I love it.
Okay, let's
All
get to
right,
the last one here.
my last one. So this is a guy he's my latest of all of my picks in terms of where he's going right now in redraft, but he is a guy that I have been rising on for quite some time. He's a guy that I loved in the draft process. I was the only real concern was the injury history that he had at Colorado, but it's in terms of talent, there was no questioning what he could do. And I think his situation just keeps getting better and better the more I look at it. So my final plant your flag pick is Laviska Shenault, wide receiver / do everything else for the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is a guy who is being drafted. Let me switch over here. I got to scroll. Let me just stop here real quick. DJ Chark, his teammate, presumed wide receiver 1 for the Jacksonville Jaguars, is going 73rd overall, right at the back of the 6th round. Now let me just keep on scrolling, and I'm gonna keep on scrolling, and I'm gonna finally stop scrolling. Going a couple rounds later, 114th overall is his teammate Laviska Shenault, and I'm here to tell you that those ADP should be flip flopped at best, if not him going even higher. I think that this is the wide receiver 1 for the Jaguars this year. And I think if you're talking about, even if you want to talk about dynasty, DJ Chark is a free agent after this season. And I think that, that could be an even bigger step forward for Shenault the following season. But just talking strictly redraft, his rookie year, we talk about how great we're 27 podcasts deep, and I don't even know how many times we've talked about how great this last year's wide receiver class was already on this podcast. All right, so keeping that in mind, he caught 73.4% of his targets last year, which was best among rookie receivers in that class. And that was with the monstrosity, just the awful, terrible list of quarterbacks that he played with last year. Enter
Jake
Trevor
Luton.
Lawrence. Right. There's some guy, I can't even remember his name. Like there's a couple guys that man, it was rough.
Did Mike Glennon, was he there too?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he got some rub
Mike
too.
Glennon, Gardner
Gardner Minshew,
Minshew,
of course,
Jake
Minshew
Luton.
mania.
Which
Yeah,
look, I like Gardner Minshew first off. I think he's
he's
good.
all right.
I think he's good.
No, he's not good. He's
I think
okay.
he's good.
He's okay. He's a fine backup, but that's what he is, you know. Um, but enter Trevor Lawrence now should be an upgrade at the quarterback position, and then
I
you
don't know. Big
have
Big Urban said the other day that he's not ready.
right. I know it's so why do coaches do this shit? Like
They think they're throwing us off.
like no, and yeah, like it not like it's not even they're not even worried about us, but like who what opponent on their schedule do they think they're fooling? I want to
Yeah,
know. I want to
like
I
you're
want to
not
know
gonna play Trevor Lawrence
I
again.
want to know what team on their schedule they're like, oh, if we say this, they're definitely gonna think we're being for real. Like who in NFL circles, who is the team that because I feel like Jacksonville would be that team that people would be like, oh, if I say some stupid shit, they'll probably believe it. And so we're talking about Jacksonville already, so it can't be them in this scenario. Um, but yeah, so he had immediate production as a rookie, showing what he can do when healthy, and he's not just a pass catcher either. I mean, you can line him up in the backfield, you can line him up
That
in line
that's what
at
I
tight
always say
end.
about him is he's an RB1 in a wide receiver role.
And he's very comparable to a player that head coach Urban Meyer has had some success with in the past with Percy Harvin. Like I think he can have that same type of role. Now, granted, you have the whole Travis Etienne,
I
coming
think he
in
could have
and
a
be,
very Debo Samuel role
right,
in that offense.
right, yeah, I could see something like that without a doubt. And and then of course, you already talked about how you don't need to pay a lot of attention to what comes out from beat writers in the in the off season process, but he has that hype train going for him too, where it was it came out from a Jacksonville beat writer that he was the most impressive player at OTA and at mini camps, and it's not really surprising considering his his talent level, and so where he's going at, if you can get, I mean, if you're talking about if you're drafting and if you're drafting in the 10th round, in the 9th round, Chenault is an auto smash, auto draft type of guy for me at that point. Like I'm willing to reach for him in the 8th round to make sure that I get him type of thing. So um, he's been getting some traction in the offseason, so it'll be interesting to see how high
Oh
his
yeah,
ADP climbs between now and August. So this is something, this is why we're doing this right now, and then we'll probably, I imagine, we'll look at ADP, sometime in August and possibly do something like this again, because these ADPs fluctuate a lot in the offseason. We've still got a little bit less than 2
well,
months
I
to
mean,
go.
yeah. Well, then also too, like, don't forget, we've done our busts, we've done our plant your flag guys, we have sleepers as well that
Right.
we could have coming out.
Yeah,
So
and he fits that bill too with where he's going right now. Like you might hear me talk about him again with how much I love him and where he's going, but that is something to keep in mind. But with where he's going right now, if for whatever reason you're drafting in June, July, once you get to the 9th round, and he might even be going later than that in some of these leagues, you should be auto drafting this guy. Like I'm all in as Laviska Shenault, wide receiver 1 for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and like a 7th round worthy pick, if not higher.
yeah, uh I traded him to you about a month
Yeah,
ago.
yeah,
Traded him. I mean, I did get George Kittle in return, so
yeah.
uh,
Well, so it was essentially
it was a
it was
package.
George Kittle and
103.
and the 10.
3.
Well, you traded me the 103. What did so
Yeah,
yeah,
for
yeah.
106. Yeah, George Kittle and 106 for 103 and Chenault.
There you go. Yep. Yep. So that and
Woo.
one just and just like I've already talked about Kyle Pitts. All right, that trade was to ensure I'm not going to be taking Kyle Pitts with the 103, but that trade was to ensure that I'm going to lock Kyle Pitts in on my team as well. So like I'm again, I already told you about CeeDee Lamb, Kyle Pitts, Laviska Shenault. I'm putting my money where my mouth is with these guys, man. Like I think that's one of the most fun things about playing in dynasty leagues is you had the opportunity to go get your guys and call your shots and stuff like that. And so this is just more evidence of that. Like
Yeah.
Chenault wasn't just like a throw-in piece for me to make that trade happen.
No, I like
Um,
Chenault a lot. I didn't want to give him up, but George Kittle is,
yeah,
I mean, that's, you got to do what you got to do.
right,
But,
right.
I mean, yeah, my thing, like, I didn't want to do these with guys that I have on my team just because I can already hear our league being like, of course he says the guys on his team are good. Like you
Oh
already know,
yeah,
like, yeah.
of course.
So yeah,
Yeah.
like most of the guys are not on my team now. Antonio Gibson, in all but one league I play in, I have Antonio Gibson on every team except for one.
You're
Um,
welcome for one of those shares.
yeah, but it has nothing to do. My love for Antonio Gibson has nothing to do with him being on my team. Him being on my
Well,
team
no,
has
that's
everything to do for my love for Antonio Gibson.
yeah, no,
It's the opposite.
that's exactly how I feel about these guys. Like I'm not high on these guys because they're on my team. Like these guys are on my team because I'm high on them. Like
Yeah,
I was high
exactly.
on them. I was high on them long before they were on my roster. But I made sure to get them on my roster because I'm high on them. Like that's what you should be doing. So
Yeah, exactly. If you
I
have
know
a
what you're.
player that you have a strong conviction about, and look, we've
Look,
all made some lopsided trades to get who we want. It's
yeah,
just part of fantasy football. If you have a
and we've
guy you feel
all
that strongly about, you're gonna have to pay up unless you can dupe the guy that has them into thinking that you don't want them, which is a very valid strategy. Andrew's done that with every Rams running back, where he talks down on them until until he acquires them, and then oh, he's not going to be that good. He's still oh, he's not going to be this. And then when he gets the Rams running back, he's like, this guy's going to go off.
hey, look, it's worked out for me, so I'm not mad
Yeah,
about it, man. um,
that's what you should do.
yeah, but yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying with our league, though. Like, I 100% can hear
Oh
that
yeah,
too.
yeah,
But
they're all gonna bitch for sure.
yeah, because other than CeeDee Lamb, three of the four guys, well, Kyle Pitts isn't technically on my roster yet, but he will be here very shortly.
Give it a
So
month.
yeah. So three of these four guys I talked about today are on our 12 team league, on my dynasty roster in that 12 team league, and that's not by accident. And I was high on these guys long before I traded for them or made sure I could draft them or whatever the case may be. And I don't want to be the only one over here reaping the rewards of having these guys. So I want to help other people out
Yeah,
too.
exactly.
Like
We're trying to pump these guys. So I mean, like if you're in our dynasty league, well, except for Antonio Gibson, I mean, if you want to offer me a massive package to get my boy Mike Davis, you go ahead and
yeah,
shoot that my way.
right. I'm sure you would love that. Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, well, it actually have to be a good package for me to get rid of him because I think, like I said, he's in for a big year. So,
Um,
yeah, Antonio Gibson, you're not getting from me at all.
right.
So
Yeah, that's
don't
how
even
it
worry.
is for me too with Cam Akers. So don't feel bad. And that one-on-one and going. Yeah, I know what
Just
you
to
mean.
let you know how high I am on Antonio Gibson, you would have better luck getting Jonathan Taylor from me
A Colts
than,
fan,
yeah.
a
As
Colts
a
fan is
Colts
saying
fan, you would
this.
have better luck getting Jonathan Taylor from me than you would have getting Antonio Gibson.
I would have never in a million years thought that either, man. Like
That just
but that
shows you
that
where
that
I'm
right
at.
there is planting your flag.
Yeah,
That's I
yeah.
mean that is the definition of what we're doing tonight. So man, this is just doing this stuff, man, gets me so excited. This is
Is
what
it
makes
September
fantasy.
yet?
This is
Do we
what
have
makes fantasy
football yet?
fun, man. Like we've been doing this long enough, and if you've been doing it long enough, you've experienced this too, where you have guys that you love and you take your shot on and you miss. Like it
Oh
sucks.
yeah, nobody's ever going to be 100% right.
No.
No, like
Like
never.
if all eight of these guys hit come this season, if all eight of these guys hit, that would be a
Oh,
fucking miracle.
we're gonna let you know about it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Don't that football ain't gonna spike itself, and we will spike it. Trust, trust. Um, but it's just that's especially dynasty, man. That's why I've grown to love dynasty so much. Is if you really do
Feel
your homework on a
strongly.
guy and shoot your shot, and you go get your guy, and then if they hit, bro, it's such a good feeling. It's so much more
That's the
fun.
Jonathan Taylor love. Like I
Yeah.
have. Like
It,
I
it,
did every look, the trade I made to get Jonathan Taylor last year, was one of the dumbest trades anybody in fantasy football history will ever make. I traded Alvin Kamara and Nick Chubb to
For
get Jonathan Taylor.
well, you got the
Well,
102
yeah,
and the 103, right?
yeah, but I did it for Jonathan Taylor,
Right, right,
like because I knew you were taking CEH. So I
right.
traded Nick Chubb and Alvin Kamara to ensure I got Jonathan Taylor on my roster. Um,
That doesn't look all that bad
I'm not mad
from this
about it,
time,
honestly, right
right?
now. I'm not mad. I don't think it's bad. Now, I really would like to have Nick Chubb. I miss Nick Chubb.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
I
Nick
could have
Chubb is
Jonathan
so
Taylor and
good.
Nick Chubb on my team,
Yeah, you talking about underrated players like you were talking about with
God,
Robert
I love
Woods,
Nick
Nick
Chubb
Chubb.
so
Nick Chubb
much.
has got to be the most underrated running back in the
If I
league.
had to pick somebody, if that's who I was going back and forth with on the plant my flag, if I didn't pick Antonio Gibson at the running back position, well, I did take Mike Davis, but that was just a little lower ADP.
Right.
Um, guy that everybody could grab. But yeah, if it wasn't Antonio Gibson, Nick Chubb would have been my guy.
Yeah, he's so good, man.
That's the dude right there. I think
Yeah.
he's like, in all honesty, I think Nick Chubb is probably the best running back in football.
He's arguably
If he got the work, if he
I
got
don't
the
think he's
workload with Kareem Hunt on,
I
if
don't
Nick
think
Chubb
he's
got the workload, I think he's far and away the RB1.
I think he's the best pure runner in football. Um I don't think his pass catching chops are as good as like the Christian McCaffrey,
Like
Dalvin
I
Cook.
love JT. Like I I don't know why Taylor's being drafted ahead of Nick Chubb. I would take Chubb. I would take
I
Chubb
would, I
over
would,
Elliott easily.
I was about to say that too.
I would take Chubb. In
I
all
think I think
honesty,
Saquon has a
out of
little
these
bit more
guys,
upside,
I would
but
have I would have McCaffrey. I'd have McCaffrey at one. Dalvin
I
Cook.
agree with the top four.
I I would probably take Nick Chubb over Derrick Henry this year.
Interesting.
I would. I would
I
probably
mean,
take Nick Chubb over Alvin Kamara this year.
Derrick Henry, you're betting on somebody, like
Huge workload
3 years running now. Like
to
that
get
just
close to
doesn't really happen.
350 plus touchdowns or
Right.
350 plus touchdowns.
Yeah. I think Derrick Henry is one of the riskiest players to take at the top of the draft.
Yeah, because I
So
mean,
I
like
get
even
that.
like look, even Superman had to die in the comic books. Nobody's invincible. Okay.
Right.
So
And that's
regardless of
not a
what you
knock on
think,
Henry either. Like Henry is
no,
an
no,
incredible
no,
running
yeah,
back, but for him to do what he's done the last 2 years, to do it all over again, like it's
3
almost
years. It's
yeah.
3.
Oh,
I
has it
mean,
been 3 years now?
yeah, it's been 3 years that he's had. I mean, in the last 3 years, let me. I'm about to blow your mind. Let me tell you how many touches he's had the last 3 seasons combined. It's because I was talking with Jared the other day about it. We were talking about how many touches he's had the last 3 years. I have to look up the exact number. Hold on a second. Okay, yeah. So for the last 3 years, oh my God, that's insane. Shit, wrong button. Hold on. I got a new phone like a few weeks ago. I'm still trying to figure out how to use it.
Let me see if I can find. While you're doing that, pull up Mike Clay's Twitter right here.
I've got it right now.
I saw something popped up on the ESPN or on the.
You know how many? Here we go.
All right,
The
go
last
ahead.
3 seasons combined, Derrick Henry has 896 carries in
Oh
3
my
years.
God. That's
So
unreal.
basically 900 carries in 3 seasons.
I'm trying to find it. So on the
The
fantasy
projections.
football, no, on the fantasy football tab on Bleacher Report, a Mike Clay tweet popped up that was really interesting, talking about like players that running backs that led the league in touches and then what they did. Here we go.
I've
So
seen that. Yeah, what they did the
most
following.
touches in a year over the last decade, and they output the following season. So if you look at this, these guys, the year and the touches they got, and look at these following seasons. Now a lot of them are low total games, guys getting hurt and
Because of
stuff like
injury.
that.
Yeah.
Right. But that's not even really the point. Like I'm not even really too concerned about injury, but just the possibility for regression. Like it's just so
High.
clear. Yeah. Like and so you got all these guys and all this evidence of of regression, and then you've got
So
Derrick Henry
basically,
right
you have
here.
two guys. You basically have Adrian Peterson and Zeke, and Zeke's was basically just delayed by 1 year.
Right. Yep. So man, I don't know. Yeah, Derrick Henry, I would be nervous if I was sitting at 103 and CMC and Cook come off the board. I would be nervous.
I mean, I like the talent more, but I would probably take Nick Chubb over Saquon. I would take him over Zeke. Yeah, I would have
He's
Nick Chubb
just
as my number 3 running back off the board.
he's so safe, man. Like he's as good
If he
as
doesn't get hurt, which he did have some injury stuff last year, but I mean, and especially look, if you told me right now, like if you told me right now that Kareem Hunt would miss 6 games next year, I would not have an issue with you taking Nick Chubb first overall.
yeah, I could see it. If Kareem Hunt was to miss time, he definitely has one-on-one upside with
Yeah, I
the
mean
way that
he's
offense
hard
is
pressed.
built
I
and how
mean,
much they run the ball, how good that offensive line is, how great the run scheme is on that. I mean, he's got everything going for him, man. Like everything around him is great for a running back, and then he is a great running back. So like there's nothing to not like about his situation other than the fact that Kareem Hunt is also a very talented running back and is
yeah,
going to get plenty of touches as well. That is the only thing holding him back. It's
yeah,
not for a lack of talent or for a lack of
yeah.
not a
So
good
yeah,
situation.
my ideal draft is getting Nick Chubb, Antonio Gibson, first 2 players, first 2 rounds.
You could realistically do that.
Oh
Like
yeah,
looking at
oh
ADP right
easily.
now,
Yeah,
if you're picking in the 8 slot, you can grab
that's
Nick
about where he's
Chubb.
going.
Yeah, and then you're talking about a 12-team league. So what is that? What
You're
does that put
picking
your
12, pick 12.
well, no, if you're a 12-team league,
Oh, oh,
if you're
okay.
picking 8, you grab
Then yeah,
him here
you're
at
picking a
12,
16.
right? And then
That's where he's going.
guess who's at 16?
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
I
that
mean,
is my ideal draft.
yeah, that would be a great way to start off a draft, man. And then you follow that up. Let's scroll on down here to the
Like I
third
said,
round.
when you look at some of the 3rd round guys, look, Calvin Ridley, you could possibly get in the 3rd,
Allen Robinson,
which
Terry
I don't think so.
McLaurin,
But yeah, I mean, yeah, Alan McLaurin, Keenan Allen is a great Julio,
Keenan Allen.
Mike
Yeah.
Evans in the 4th round. Like what?
And then you start to
Um,
get like you grab, of course, if I'm going to love it if you turn around and grab CeeDee Lamb in the 4th round
Robert Woods
or
is
Robert
there.
Woods in the 4th
Yeah,
round.
these guys that we had just talked about,
Yeah. And
Deontay in the
then turn
5th,
around, grab Deontay, and then like,
Mike
oh my
Davis.
God, I'm
Or
so ready
I
for
mean,
fantasy
yeah,
football.
yeah. I mean,
Jesus
there's so many
Christ.
great values that you don't have to reach on guys. Now, if like we've said millions of times, if these guys, if you're that sold on one of these guys and you want to reach around, up like Cam Akers is going in the 2nd round. If you feel that strongly on Cam Akers and you want to pick him, between 6 and 10,
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and tell
I
you
don't
right
have a
now, man.
problem with it. I don't have a problem with it.
If you're in a redraft league with me and you're hoping to get Cam Akers in the 2nd round
You
and
have to pick him.
I'm picking in the back of the 1st, you ain't getting him. You might as well just wrap that shit up because I'm getting him in the back of the 1st round.
Yeah, yeah. So I
Like
mean, yeah,
that's like go get your guys, man. Like you might swing and miss, but
you
if
will swing
fuck
and miss. I mean, it's inevitable.
if
You know
you
how
but it
many
when
players that I have fucked up on over the years? I mean,
yeah, but
countless guys.
the years whenever you hit it makes winning. So like don't be a ranking slave, man. It's not
Austin
it's
Hooper. You want to talk about one of the biggest misses of all time? Just last year, I traded
oh
Darren Waller
yeah.
for Austin Hooper straight up because I thought Waller was a 1-year wonder. And I thought Austin Hooper was going to the Browns. They made him the highest paid tight end in football. He had just come off a tight end 1 season in Atlanta. I was all in on Austin Hooper. I traded Darren Waller straight up to get him. I went and got my guy. Do I look like a dumbass? Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, like, look, like that's what it takes sometimes, you know, to get the guy that you're high on. You're gonna be wrong. You're gonna trade a guy that's gonna be a top 3 player, and you're gonna get a bottom feeding guy. It's gonna happen. But I would much rather go down swinging than watch the guy that I love blow up on somebody else's roster.
Right. Yeah, that's the big takeaway for me too, man. It's a lot more fun whenever you stick with your gut and because like early on, man, there's a lot. Look, there's a lot of really, really smart people in the fantasy industry. Like we were talking about ESPN with Matthew Berry and Phil Yates, Mike Clay, the fantasy footballers, all three of those guys over there, Andy, Mike, and Jason, Evan
That's the only
Silva.
reason I have a Twitter account.
Yeah, JJ Zacharyson. I mean, I could go on and on, man. There's so many smart people in the fantasy industry, and there's nothing wrong with taking their advice and listening to it and looking at their rankings. And that, like, I've used cheat sheets from the fantasy footballers for the last 5, 6 years, I think, and then before then it was ESPN. Like, I've always taken one of those to my draft. There's nothing wrong with using that stuff, man. But if you're in a range where maybe your guy isn't the next guy up on the list of rankings you took with you to the draft. But if you have any doubt that you're not going to get him on the flip when like on your next pick, man, take your guy because if it works out, it's going to be so much more fun for you. And if you miss, it's a learning experience.
And
You
see,
bounce back. I don't know,
with
man.
mine, like too, like it's kind of funny because we all like, of course, everybody wants to win. That's the thing is you all want to win. You want to win the title at the end of fantasy football.
Hmm.
But for me, it's just as much fun watching a guy that I love, that I made a move for, that I drafted, blow up on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there because you're tuning in and like, I was like, oh man, like this next season, do I give a shit what Washington's record is? Nope. They can win one game.
You
Am
can
I
bet you're
going
going to
to
watch
watch it?
every game,
Am I
though.
going to watch every snap of Washington football? Absolutely. As long as that doesn't coincide with the Colts game, but then I'll have two screens.
Right. Yeah.
So I mean, so yeah, I will watch every snap Antonio Gibson makes. Is there going to be weeks where I'm like, you know, I'm kicking myself? Probably. Um, I mean, it's just kind of inevitable. But I can guarantee you there's going to be at least a handful of weeks that I'm doing cartwheels in my living room watching him score 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I mean, yeah, it's
Bro, that's part of why I go after these Rams running backs, man, because like I'm already tuned into the Rams game anyway. You
why I
know,
got
like
Taylor.
yeah, right. Like I'm already tuned to the Rams game anyway, and I mean, it's not. I wouldn't just go grab every single Rams running back, even though it's worked out that way so far. But like
Yeah, I was gonna say, but that's literally
the,
what you've done.
but the guys that they've been grabbing, I've believed in from a talent standpoint. Like they haven't made a running back draft selection that I haven't liked in some years now. And like for whatever reason, man, the Rams and running backs, I don't know. I mean, you go way back, like we've got the Rams have a long string of great running backs. And it's made me
That's
being
why
a
I hate
Rams
the
fan,
Titans.
being
The
a Rams
Titans,
fan my
every
whole
running
life,
back the
man.
Titans draft, I'm like, well, fuck. Like
Yeah.
that guy's going for 2,000 at least some point.
Right. And that's like being a Rams fan my whole life, man. It's made me fall in love with the running back position. Just watching the guys that I've watched growing up. Like since I've been a Rams fan, it was Marshall Faulk first, and then Steven Jackson, and yeah, thank you guys for Marshall too, by the way.
Oh, we got Edge. We got a Hall of Fame player out of it. So.
Yeah, it worked out good for both teams.
Yeah.
But yeah, Marshall Faulk, Steven Jackson, Todd
Man, I
Gurley.
love Steven Jackson.
Yeah, he was so. But yeah, I mean, so I've kind of fallen in love with the running back position, and then it's just with this next resume that the Rams have, it's just continued, man. The guys they pick, I love his players, and so I end up going and grabbing them. But it makes Sundays that much more fun, man. Like on top of Cam Akers putting us up 3 touchdowns, on a random Sunday next year, he's also running up my score for my fantasy team, and so some Sundays it makes more painful because maybe the Rams only score 6 points and he puts up a dud, and now like he put up a dud for my team, and then the Rams put up a dud. And now I'm over here pissed off, but that's the ups and downs.
I wish you could have been in the same room with me last year when Jonathan Taylor at the last game against Jacksonville at the end of the season, where it was like win and get in, like we had to win the game to get into the playoffs, and Jonathan Taylor dropped like 270 yards. Like 3 touchdowns in that game. Oh man, like I was like, so not only I was like the Colts are making the playoffs, but this guy's going fucking nuclear for my fantasy team.
Yeah,
right now. Like,
that's man.
I was like, man, this is the greatest thing of all time.
Yeah, that's how I traded for Cam Akers in our 12 team dynasty league right before, like literally, I think either 1 week or 2 weeks before the Akers breakout happened. Like whenever he came back from injury and got put back in the lineup and started his string of taking over the team lead at running back, and getting to watch that happen while he was on my team, it was just like the icing on the cake. Like knowing I don't have to go overpay for this guy now because I've already got him, you know. And so it just, man, it makes approaching fantasy that way. That these last 2 years of have been kind of the transition of me like paying less attention to what the articles and what the rankings and things say, and just going with what I believe and what my gut says and the guys that I like. It's been the
That's what
most
won me a
fun.
title.
It's
That's
been
what
the
I've been
most
doing
fun,
for
most
years.
fun couple of years that I've had in fantasy, man. It really is a blast. So, and it took some years of playing. I mean, I've been playing fantasy football for about a decade now. It was right after I got out of high school, 2009. Met you at WKCTC, you know, not long after that. You introduced me to
Right.
fantasy football. And I think
Yeah,
I played my first league 2010 or 2011, something like that. So I mean, it took a little bit less than a decade for me to really get there and to feel comfortable to do this. But yeah, man, now, these last couple of years, really just approaching it with, I love this guy, so I'm going to go get him. I haven't won any titles in the last 2 years. So, I'm hoping to do so, obviously, but, even without winning a title, it's been the most fun. I won championships, in the past, going with the cheat sheets and rankings and sticking with that and stuff like that. And it's worked out, I mean, you can win that way, but I've had more fun these last couple of years, man. I'm looking forward to just keep on trucking.
I'm gonna date myself on this one. Just to let you know how long that I've been playing fantasy football. Well, one, iPhones and apps didn't exist. That wasn't a thing. We had sheets, and we had a site online we would get on, and they would have the points for all the players auto-populated, and we would write down the scores of the players, and then we would just add up the scores. My first ever draft pick in fantasy football was Clinton Portis.
Wow.
That is how long I've been playing fantasy football with my buddies in middle school. So
that's crazy, man. Yeah, I didn't get introduced into college, but it's my wife.
I was lucky. The best pick I ever made, which is the reason why I have that jersey hanging in my closet.
Oh, you had LT that year, huh?
2006. I drafted LaDainian Tomlinson, and after that season, I told my mom, I said, I'm gonna need that LaDainian Tomlinson jersey. I gotta have that. It's the only non-Colts jersey I own, all because I drafted him in 2006.
I feel you. I've made like a pact with myself that I will have a signed Julio Jones jersey hanging up on my wall at some point, because he was the main cog that won me my first ever fantasy football championship.
Well, I'll help you pay for it if you just promise it's not a Titans one.
No, hell no. He was.
Thank you.
No.
Don't get the Titans Julio Jones jersey.
No shot, man. He was with Atlanta whenever he won me that championship, so that'll be the jersey that gets hung up one day. But yeah, I'll have a signed Julio.
I guess about that, as much as it would hurt you, like I might need to buy a Devontae Adams jersey. I might need to get a Devontae Adams jersey to hang up somewhere in here that you can look at every time we do a podcast.
I want to be mad at Diggs for that, but it ain't even his fault. It's Kirk Cousins' fault, man. Fuck Kirk Cousins. I hate that guy so much. He seems like such a likable guy, but I can't stand his ass. Why won't you just throw Diggs the ball, man? He's the best receiver on the field. What are we talking? That first quarter he had to. I was on my way to a championship. And then Kirk was like, hey, that worked really well throwing Diggs the ball in the first quarter. I'm just going to stop doing that.
Yeah. That Monday night Green Bay game.
Green Bay, Minnesota, man. We literally, we were points apart from each other. And you had Adams going and I had Diggs going. And Diggs scored a touchdown, didn't he?
Early.
In the first quarter?
Yeah. Super early. And at that point, I was like, well, great. I was like, fuck. Like, I felt so bad for Emily being in the same room as I was, because she just watched everything unfold. Like, I was literally to the point where, like, I'm collapsed in my living room, dry heaving from almost throwing up.
And then Devontae Adams goes on to out target Stephon Diggs by like 17 targets in the second half.
He went fucking nuclear. That like I was jumping around and screaming and oh my god, I made a idiot out of myself, but that's what makes it fun.
Three full years deep into this 12-team dynasty league, I finished second, and third, and I'm about ready to blow my brains out.
I was gonna say I've been lucky enough to win, but I've never finished lower than third place. So yeah, I thought for sure last year, like I didn't think I was gonna make the playoffs because I blew my team up to draft. I mean, look, you trade Nick Chubb and Alvin Kamara and Devontae Adams and Darren Waller, along with some of the other guys. I mean, and you go all in on getting younger and getting rookies. I thought I was like, well, like I'm gonna miss the playoffs this year. I'll have a higher draft pick. I'll add one more player, and then these guys should take the leap, the second year. And then it's game on from there. For like the next decade, like it's just game on because all my guys are first year rookies. Did not expect to make the playoffs. And I think me and you played. Well, we played for the third place game, and I think that was because I get to the point where like once I lose and I'm not in the title picture, I don't even bother setting my line. Like I had like Mike Davis, Antonio Gibson, like they didn't even play that week. I didn't even set my lineup. I was like, you know what, like fuck it, like whatever, it doesn't matter. But yeah, I mean we so I guess technically that would mean I finished fourth last year. But yeah, that's the lowest I've ever finished. And out of all the fantasy leagues I've played in over the years, I mean, we're talking out of all the leagues, I've probably played in 30 to 40 different leagues over 15 years. 16 years. I guess this will be 16th year because the first year was in 05. I was in 8th grade. Or no, it was 04. I was in 8th grade. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, so I've never not made the playoffs. I've made the playoffs every league I've ever played. I've never not made the playoffs. And I thought last year was going to break the streak. I was like, you know what? Like, I'm not going to make the playoffs. This is going to fucking suck, but I did it to myself. Like,
right.
Yeah. Like I can take 1 year off. And then I made the playoffs. And then I got all invested in trying to win the title again when I knew I had no shot. I mean, it
doesn't even matter how you feel going into the playoffs.
Once you get in there, you're just
make the playoffs, you're like, oh fuck, I'm about to win this thing.
You get so hyped. Meanwhile, like I said, like I'm gonna piss off Nate, but like
Nate, oh, don't do it to him.
I mean, no, like he won that title. He won it on his own. Okay. But
see, here you go. You had to put the button there.
I'm fucking with him. He knows I just joke with him about it. But yeah, I mean, yeah. You're right. Once you get in the playoffs, it's you want to win. But anyway, we'll go ahead and as always, we're going over. This isn't even anything to do with the topic. We're just talking.
Yeah. We'll go ever since Nick Chubb, we've just been talking.
So we'll go ahead and end this here. I'll let Drew, like always, do the closing.
As always, first and foremost, if you somehow made it this far to another Overrun podcast, thank you for sticking with us this deep into it. If you are not already subscribed or following us on our different areas where you can find us, Apple, Spotify, Google, whatever, pretty much anywhere you can find a podcast, we're there. And then visually, if you want to watch us, scroll through these ADPs and talk about these players and look at our ugly mugs while you go through this type of stuff, you can also find us over on YouTube as well. If you're not already at YouTube, go over to YouTube, find this video, make sure you like the video, comment down below and let us know who the guys you're playing your flag are on it. Guys we didn't hit on. They give us some ideas, some different perspectives on guys that you're higher on if you somehow made it this deep. And the YouTube comments are the easiest way for us to really be able to clap back with other people and stuff too. So if you disagree with any of our takes, let us know too, man. I have fun in the comments whenever we get them. So go over to YouTube, like the video, comment on the video, and then subscribe to the channel. It's completely free. You make sure you hit the little bell whenever it pops up so that you can be notified. We usually only upload about once a week, so you're not getting a shit ton of notifications to your phone. But then you'll know whenever we do put them up. So go over there. All the channels. We appreciate all the love that we can get. It helps it grow, and regardless, we're still going to be here, two dudes who just love talking about sports. So we're not going anywhere, even if we don't get another subscriber from here on out. So, but regardless, all the love, we appreciate it.
Yes, sir. So thank you guys so much for listening, and we will catch you next week.